Well, Kathie Lee, it's so good to have you stop by. Thanks for coming into the program.
Good to be with you. It's been a while. It's been a
I
busy week,
know.
for both of us.
Well, we're doing a little bit of a special series here about folks that were involved with the Reagan film. And so, of course, I wanted to have you come in, and we'll use this as an excuse to talk about other things too. But let me start with that. When we screened the movie for you in Nashville, I think we were in the basement of our friend Karen's house. And we had a
Great.
chat afterwards, and I said, do you feel anything here? And you came back with an amazing song. Tell us how that happened.
Well, it was a good year and a half before the movie came out, and
Right,
I know those kinds of things. These things take years, and you guys invited a bunch of us who have a background in the film industry
right.
in all kinds of different ways because you want the feedback. It's really, really important
Yep.
for other artists to be able to, you know, that you trust, you
Hmm.
know, give you their input. And so um, I was deeply moved by the movie. You know that the first time I saw it, and I just thought, unfortunately, Dennis is not going to get an Academy Award nomination because it's about Reagan.
Right.
But I thought that his performance was Oscar worthy,
Mm.
and I still think that. And then, of course, it came out, but before, and you called me. I think that night you actually said to me, Kathie, I loved your music that you wrote with Brett James for your
Hmm.
movie. Then
Hmm.
came you.
Yep.
Would you like to write it? Will you write a song to be considered for the movie, or maybe for the album that we're going
Yeah, the
to
Inspired by soundtrack.
inspired by? Is that the way you,
Hmm.
you technically say it? Yeah, the
Yeah.
inspired. And I said, yeah, of course, I'm honored to. So I came home, and this neighbor of mine, this friend of mine, Richard Spitz, was over, and I said, Richard, let's write this song together for the movie. Maybe maybe they'll love it. And he's a brilliant composer and pianist and guitarist and all that, but it doesn't make his living that way. But we'd written quite a few songs, and so we usually I can come up with the lyric so fast.
Mm.
I wrote sometimes with Brett James 5 songs in a day, and they
Wow.
were just, I think in lyrics and I see in cinematography and
Mm.
technicolor. I'm an artist that way.
Mm.
You're either, your mind works that way, or it doesn't, or other people see numbers,
Mm.
you know, I'm not good at that. But
Stop for one second. You think in lyrics. I have to digest that. What does that mean?
I think within rhymes.
Hmm.
In rhymes, and I'm a classical composer in the sense that I respect true rhymes,
Mm.
perfect rhymes.
Mm.
You know, I'm a classicist that in that way,
Mm.
and I have fun with it if I'm writing a satirical song or something like that.
Mm.
Um, I'll rhyme dumb with young, but
Okay.
when I'm writing a real song in the classic sense. Um, uh, I'm just very, very particular about it, and I try to pay homage to the great composers of all time, which I would never compare myself to,
Mm.
but but I know the process.
Right.
So anyway, nothing was coming to me,
Mm.
and I had met President Reagan and
Hmm.
Mrs. Reagan. I'd met one of my favorite pictures is in my home in Connecticut when I was in my early 20s, and it was actually at the Washington Hilton where he would had the assassination attempt on his life.
Right.
But I was opening for Bob Hope for
Mm.
some event,
Hmm.
and the president and Mrs. Reagan were there, and so it's one of my favorite pictures of my entire career. I'm standing there next to Bob Hope. There's Bob Hope, then me, and then President Reagan and Mrs. Reagan. And they were just as charming as they could possibly be. And of course, I had no idea where my career was going to take me. I was writing then, but nobody knew it.
Mm.
I'd already written my first book. Nobody, all these things are building blocks in your
Right.
career. Everything you do leads to the next thing if you've done it with respect and dignity and artistry. It
Right.
just always does.
Mm.
It always does. So anyway, um, yeah, I loved meeting him, and I was so grateful that I had that vision of him. And then
Mm.
later, after he passed, Frank was working with Mrs. Reagan on the Just Say No
Mm-hmm.
anti-drug thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to know her quite well. And
Yeah, wasn't there a story about Frank and President Reagan at a football game? Does that ring a bell for you at
yes,
all?
that's exactly right. That's
Yeah.
exactly.
Would you tell that story?
I'll try to remember it. Yeah, he was doing Monday Night Football.
Right.
It was John Lennon was there.
Right.
It was in LA,
That was
and
it.
he happened to be there, and he got a chance to. He was fascinated by American football,
Mm-hmm.
and which is of course soccer in England,
Right.
but American football fascinated him, and so he was in the booth, and John Lennon was there, and Cody, that's my son, forgive me, and Frank was pointing out things to President Reagan, of course. Oh, excuse me, I'm getting confused.
Mm-hmm.
John Lennon,
Right.
and of course, when the John Lennon passed, it was also on the night. It was a Monday night,
Yeah.
and that's when Howard Cosell took over. Like he was the one that was pointing out about football to John Lennon.
Right.
Really,
Right.
really, Howard, come on.
Wow.
The egos are. All these years in this business, I still cannot get over the egos.
So Frank introduced John Lennon to Ronald Reagan, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, yes, I think so. That night in the booth.
I
Or
think
somewhere
if I remember the story, John had said he wanted to meet Governor Reagan, and Frank then made it happen.
Governor at the time.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
listen, here's two weird things that I learned through the course of researching the movie. First was that John Lennon actually said if he could vote, he would have voted for Ronald Reagan in 1980.
Mhm.
How's that for a shocker? Kind of ruins the image for some of the Lennon fans out there.
Well, everybody rewrites history these days, don't they? He'd never do that. He would, he'd be all for getting him assassinated. No, he wouldn't have been. No, there was a decency about John Lennon. There
Yeah,
really was.
He was telling friends that if he could vote, he would vote for Reagan. I forgot the second thing, but I'll remember it in a second.
Yeah.
But anyway, so you and Frank had a lot of associations with Ron and Nancy, and
Well, just the one with Frank was actually asked to run for governor after I don't know if it was Governor Reagan who suggested him, but he was just starting
California, you mean?
California, because he was born and raised in California.
Is
Yeah.
that right?
Uh-huh. And he would have been a heck of a good governor. Frank was not the intellectual that some people are, but he was so street smart, so smart. He's the only one who went to USC on a scholarship and paid. He was so grateful to have the education that he had. He actually won the Trojan Award at USC for the best, the finest athlete scholarship for being a great student.
Really?
And he was almost kicked out of high school for truancy. He was a kid who didn't think his father was he an itinerant oil worker during the Depression, and it didn't get harder than that. Frank ate dog food as a child. Sometimes we know that he lived in 29 different places growing up, because I have his mother's Bible also at our house in Connecticut. She was a very devout lady, and every time she kept a list of all the places that they moved to in the process of trying to find work and feed their family of three kids.
Wow.
And so it's incredible when you look at the Bible, and she says today 19 whatever arrived in Wink, Texas, no work, leaving tomorrow for Tulsa. That kind of thing. And what they did, though, it's interesting to me how people survive things like that. What are their coping mechanisms?
Right.
Every time they came to a different city, they weren't cities, they were very rural areas. When you're doing oil work, you ain't in Boston, you know. And she would find the local a local church, Assemblies of God church, and they'd start going to church right away, and get the kids in school. And Frank never stayed long enough to establish friendships or pretty much any kind of roots. But he did stay long enough to get everybody's attention because he was always the best athlete. He maybe couldn't do, and he had a stutter. He had a
Really?
stutter. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm. And so Frank used to say to me, Kathie, everybody says, well, Frank was born with a silver spoon in his mouth. And he'd go, honey, we didn't have spoons. We didn't have
That's funny.
spoons. And there was always that great integrity about Frank, really decent, honest man from a whole other generation, almost like the grapes of wrath, almost like the grapes of wrath. In fact, very, very similar to it. But yeah, so he would have been a fantastic governor because he would have been a common sense governor, like Trump tries to be a common sense president. And I think Governor Reagan was totally, they all forget he was a Democrat.
Right.
He was a head SAG, Yeah. And what I appreciated about the movie, because I just thought, oh, if this is too political, it's just going to be a problem. So not that he doesn't have a great political story to tell as well. I mean, we don't live under communist rule because of that whole situation could have turned out differently as well. He is totally, I think, responsible for that meeting with was it Gorbachev?
Gorbachev, yeah.
Mr. Gorbachev tear down this wall in Berlin, and it was shock to everybody. But look at the courage that took.
Yeah.
He was a courageous, decent man. Perfect? No, neither was Frank.
Yeah.
He crushed me when he was unfaithful to me. Crushed me, but I never fell out of love with the man that I loved.
Okay, can we talk about that for a second as a little diversion? Because I think about that a lot when I talk to my kids, or especially with my kids, that if your sister, let's say your brother or your sister did something, made a mistake like that, you wouldn't cut off ties to your brother or sister. Why would you cut off ties to your spouse? I mean, sure, you have the right to do anything, whatever you want, but your spouse is closer than your brother or sister. Why wouldn't you forgive a spouse just like you'd forgive a brother or sister who did something like that? If it was
chronic cheating, I would have.
I don't mean that. I mean a mistake, a one-off, whatever.
Yeah, and no, and if there isn't repentance, then there can't be healing.
Yeah. I just want you to know, for whatever it's worth, I so admire you for how you handled that situation, because that's what it's all about, right? That's what faith is all about, the ability to forgive. And if we can't forgive, as you said, if it's not repetitive and it's not in your face or whatever, and hopefully we won't have to do that, hopefully, but you set such a great example in the middle of that culture, and you didn't want it, you didn't ask for it, you didn't want it, but it was thrust upon you.
It had nothing to do with it, and it was, I always consider it he was just his momentary insanity, and he was, whatever he was doing that one day, and people said, oh, he had this affair. No, he didn't. He had a stupid tryst in the middle of an afternoon in a hotel.
Right.
Can we just stop? Can we just tell the facts?
Yeah.
Because they're far more interesting, actually, always to me. Than anything else you can make up and just to sell your papers. But the hardest part of that was, of course, that it was so public.
Yeah, and the National Enquirer and the video and all that stuff.
Well, it was an English. It was the. See, I used to know all of this stuff. It's been years since all of that.
No, we don't have to talk about that.
It was one of it was Tony Frost's. It was the one. Isn't that funny that I can't even remember now? And back then it was like I thought I thought my work was completely crushed, and I'd never be the same. But the Lord heals.
Was there some kind of a grand conspiracy to get you or him, or was
him and ruin our life? Yeah, we were like, yeah. That's we were just too good to be true. We really were, and there's a lot of jealousy. A lot of jealousy. A lot of people back then even hated people of faith. I have never been a Republican or a Democrat. I've been an independent voter since I first voted when I was 18 years old.
Yeah, me too.
I don't. Yeah, I vote my conscience. I vote. I'm a real student of politics. I'm a real student of seeking truth. And so I make sure I'm educated before I make, and I don't get involved with politics because I promised Billy Graham I wouldn't. Years
Mm.
ago, years ago, I met Billy Graham also. I think we were at the Washington Hilton
All
because
right.
yeah, and
That's a dangerous place.
I'm not going anymore. Early 20s, and I sang at some event that Billy was there,
Mm.
and I came to know the Lord through a Billy Graham movie called The Restless Ones years before. So
Mm.
it was amazing for me, and the rest of my family also came to know. My mother and my sister came to know the Lord through a television appearance by Billy, one of his
Is that
crusades.
right?
Yeah, so he was huge in our family legacy.
Mm.
And I remember so well talking to him backstage after the event. And he said, Kathie, you're going to have a huge uh what did he say? I'm trying to remember exactly. It's been a,
Platform or
you're going to know a huge future, a huge success in the
mm.
entertainment. And I thought, me?
Mm.
From Little Bowie, Maryland?
Mm.
You know, I didn't even graduate from college. I'm going to. By the way, I left college because I hated it. I wasn't learning a thing I needed to learn. I knew what I wanted to do. For the time I came out of my mother's womb, put in the I wanted to be in Disney movies. You know, I wanted to write. I wanted to write Dickens novels. I wanted to.
Right.
You know, that's the world I lived in, and I still do.
Yeah.
So anyway, he said to me, you're gonna be huge." And I was just, you know, you imagine a young girl who's basically just written my first book. Couldn't
Mm.
believe that was even picked up to be published.
Mm.
Had no idea, and it was republished 3 times. It's called The Quiet Riot.
Mm.
It was about growing up in the '60s, trying to be a godly woman, a Jesus person in the middle of it. I said maybe one day I'll have a daughter and I want her to read this, what it was like
Mm.
to stand up for Jesus at a time
Wow.
like,
Right.
yeah. So anyway, all of that is just to be said that Billy finally said to me, Kathie, if you want some advice, Kathie, if you want some advice, honey, he was always so gentle with me. He said, if you want some advice, I said, from you? Yes,
Right.
sir. He said, the only thing I regret, the only thing I really regret in my life is that when I got off
Mm.
my message, and I got involved with politics. He
Mm.
said, I learned a terrible lesson. You open your mouth about politics, you lose half your audience.
Yeah.
He said, Kathie, don't do it. Just your audience. God is going to open up doors for you in the
Mm.
entertainment world because you're bold about your faith.
Mm.
And millions of people will hear the gospel because you're bold.
Yeah.
Not because you're the best talented, the most anything. I
Mm.
never ever thought I was, and I know now more than ever I wasn't. But I had the favor of the Lord on me, and I had the anointing of the Holy Spirit on me.
Mm.
And I knew it every time I went in a Broadway show, Broadway stage, or a movie theater, or a movie set, or a recording studio, or anything, or because I don't believe in having a secular life and a spiritual life.
Mm-hmm.
We are one person made in
Right.
the image of God, and he loves us the way he's made us with every gift he gave us originally in our mother's wombs. And so I've never separated the secular from the spiritual in my life. I'm the same person you'll ever meet anywhere,
Mm.
because in him we live and move and have our being. You know, not in him we go on a Sunday for an hour and and hear bad theology and sing bad songs written on bad theology. And
Right.
then we go and live our secular life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Keep our secrets. You know, I said, no, I'm either going to be an authentic follower of Jesus. Yeshua, I call him because of my Jewish background. My daddy was Aaron Leon Epstein. Or I'm not going to follow him at all. I'm a seeker of truth. I got kicked out of Sunday school when I was 10 years old, kicked out of the Brownies when I was 8, and kicked out of the America's Junior Miss pageant when I was 17
Why were you
because
kicked out?
because people don't think of me this way, but I'm a rebel. If you're lying to me, I can smell it.
Mm.
And if you're telling me something I don't believe is true, I'm going to question it.
Okay.
My mother and father taught me that. Think things through,
Mm-hmm.
express yourself.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid. My parents watched me take off when I was 17 years old to live down in Miami and work for Anita Bryant. And they had no idea what business I was going to go into or what life I would lead, but they knew they had raised me to love God. And I knew right from wrong. And so in Sunday school that particular time, the teacher was, I can see her still today. Even with cataracts, I can remember what she looked like. But she was telling the story about there's a road in between two. Well, it's the Garden of Gethsemane has a road that leads right through it. That's the road that Jesus rode the colt on during Palm Sunday, and it's very famous for that. And it hasn't changed in all these millennia. And she was talking about we know from other writers that that's the road that Jesus was on with his disciples during Passion Week, that he came upon the tree that the sycamore fig tree, and he was hungry, and he went over to it, and there was no fruit on it. That's the key to this whole thing. No fruit on the tree. And so he cursed it. Now, all the people following Jesus, by that time, he had hundreds of people following him all the time. And he had the Pharisees and the Sadducees out to get him, following what's he going to say that we can get him on blasphemy? What's he going to do that we can get him on blasphemy? You know? And so he cursed it, and it shriveled up, right? And so that's when I said, teacher, I'm sorry, I don't believe that. I'm a 10-year-old little kid. And she goes, what do you mean you don't believe it? I just read it to you from the Bible. And I said, I know, but I don't believe that's what it means. My Jesus wouldn't curse anything he created. He loves us. He loved that tree. He made trees. I was just in my own childlike mind thinking, this is not what it means. So I was politely asked my parents, please don't let her come back and cause problems like this in Sunday school, you know?
Yeah.
But I was glad. I just thought, yes, but can we talk about this? Can we examine what this might mean other than just being literal? So after I started studying rabbinically, which it changed my entire life. Studying rabbinically means you just study the original source material of the scripture, which is the Hebrew in the Old Testament and of course the Greek in the New. And so many translations of the Bible are just garbage. They're garbage. They're sloppy. They're not accurate. They just, and none's worse. And people get, I don't care, but people get so angry at me because people love their King James Bible. Jesus didn't speak the King's English.
Right.
You know, that Bible came out hundreds of years later, and the people that translated it for King James, who was an evil, horrible man, were Englishmen. They'd never even been to Israel. They didn't know that Israel was a desert. So when they said that Jesus, if you look up the word tecton in the New Testament, that's what Joseph did, and then Jesus followed in his path, and that's how they made a living.
Right.
In the Greek, the word is tekton, Tekton, and it means basically, come on, Kathie, you know this stuff. Forgive me.
Tecton.
Architect/builder.
Okay.
So we know that Jesus was there with the Holy Spirit and the Father at the dawn of time. He was the architect of all of creation, along with his Father and the Holy Spirit. I believe that. And but the builder part, through these guys, because they didn't know that Israel was there was no buildable wood in Israel in 1st century AD. None. Reading the scriptures, it all came down from the Lebanon, the cedars of Lebanon.
Cedars of Lebanon.
And they were made into rafts, and they were drawn alongside the Via Maris, the road of the sea, and then taken apart at Tel Aviv, Joppa, which is now Tel Aviv, and then sent overland by animals or slaves to wherever Herod was building or whoever was building. And so what they did have, though, in 1st century AD, and this is to get back to the story, they had glorified bushes like balsam, olive tree, fruit trees, and other things, and the sycamore fig tree, different ones. But when you learn rabbinically, you understand that every single one of those represented something very symbolic in Jewish life. The olive tree will forever be synonymous with the Jewish people. The Jews are the olive tree. As for me, I will be like an olive tree, flourishing in the house of God forever, that kind of thing. And but guess what the sycamore fig tree represented?
What?
The Pharisees and the Sadducees,
Sadducees.
the religious elite.
Mm.
Jesus was cursing them
Mm.
for not feeding his people, the flock.
Mm-hmm.
They were not good shepherds. They were not they were stealing. They were putting more burdens of them with the it was enough to live under Roman rule, enough to live under the Mosaic and the Torah rules.
Yeah.
They're not easy for any human being. Then they added hundreds of other things, tax your spice garden, and they were these people. That's why they flocked to Jesus so much. He came to unchain them from all that religion and all that burden and free them up. He said, I didn't come to destroy the word. I came to fulfill it. And he brought them love, and he brought them mercy, and he brought them that's enough just right there.
Right.
So anyway, when I found that out that day that I was studying rabbinically, I looked up and I went, see, I knew it didn't mean that. It did not mean literally that tree. It meant what the tree represented. That's the way I want to study. That's why I write books now. I do movies about it. My faith was really lukewarm at that point in my life when I went on that particular trip, and I came back on fire. On fire, because now I'm going to learn the right way. Now I'm going to learn what those words really say and what they mean in terms of geopolitical and what was going on in Israel and Rome and everywhere else during that time. It's fascinating. I have 2 new books that I've written with a beautiful, beautiful man named Dr. Brian Litfin. One of them, the first one was called Herod and Mary, and the second one is Nero and Paul. They've both come out in the last 2 years, and they're thrillers. Because it was my son who got his master's degree at Oxford and in all of this stuff, and he said, "Mom, why don't we take your passion for these kinds of bigger than life, epic people, epic evil in Scripture or anywhere in the world, and juxtapose it with the fact that yes, evil is here. It's always been here. Evil was in the Garden of Eden. It's the same day that the Lord God was walking in the coolness of the evening with Adam and Eve, So we're not surprised. We shouldn't be surprised that it's still here. Right. But we have to realize and not lose hope because the presence of God Almighty was always there too. And it outshines any darkness that can ever exist. I mean, that's a hard truth to believe. But look at the Holocaust. How could they have believed that their Jehovah God was anywhere near their suffering? But he was. Yeah. He was. Yeah. And so anyway, all of that this is one of the reasons why some of my heroes in life are people like Ronald Reagan. They just are brave, bold, visionary, not club members, faithful human beings. And I know that, Reagan wasn't perfect, and certainly Nancy wasn't, and I'm certainly not. But it's what I want to be. It's my heart's desire when I wake up every morning.
When you wrote that song, sounds like it was a combination of you saw Ron and Nancy on the screen, but then you also thought back to Frank, and then of course your co-writer. It sounds like it was a mix of all those things. Does that sound about right?
Interesting story. My friend, his name is Richard Spitz. He's a very brilliant guy, but he was moving like so many people do, along with our friend Cynthia and Roger Charles, moving from LA when a lot of people were getting out for all kinds of different reasons. A lot of
people. Oh my goodness.
And so they came here, and they were going to build homes here because the taxes was one reason, but politics. So it's just, and all of them were native Californians.
Yep.
And and they all walked up my steps here at my brownstone because it was going to take a while to build their homes, but they wanted to maybe rent here where I live, and or they wanted to, buy in the meantime.
Mm-hmm.
And so Richard walked in my house and he goes, "Well, I want this one. I want to buy this one." And I said, "It's not for sale. It's my house.
Mm.
It's my home." He said, "Well, can I have the name of your interior designer?" I said, "You're looking at her. I don't live in other people's houses. I love to design. I'm a scenic designer too in my own movies. I want to, I get involved." So anyway, he became a neighbor, lives across the alley from me. And then he became a friend, a dear friend, and I helped design his home for him too. And he didn't have friends here yet. And so we'd spend time shopping for his new home all the time. I would just wrapped one of my latest films. It's called The Way. And I had some time. And he said, if I come here, will you help me with my new home? And I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "Richard, I got to tell you, I miss spending a man's money. Yes, you give me your black card, baby. I'll have this thing done for you in a month." And that's what happened. And we became very, very close. And at night, he'd come over and we'd eat a little supper and start writing songs. I didn't even know he was a musician. I didn't know anything about him like that. He said, "Well, Kathie, I have the idea for a song, and the Lord gave it to me." He's a Jew who had come to know Yeshua, Jesus, as his Messiah about 4 years before I met him, through Roger and Cynthia.
Okay.
They're the ones who mentored him in his faith. And so he said, the Lord gave me a melody and just one, not a line. What is it? He said, "The Lord gave me a melody and the title for the song.
I Knew It Would Be You."
He said, "The title is I Knew It Would Be You." And he went over to my piano, which I don't know if you can see in my background. And he sat down and says, "I haven't played piano in like 10 years. Let me see." And he thumped, and I went, "Ooh, he sure hasn't." And then he's a genius. So it clicks in. And the next thing, he was playing Chopin when he was 5 years old.
Wow.
But he got very involved in business and he played guitar a couple of times with the Rolling Stones. I mean, he's that guy, right? So he's playing this beautiful melody. And I said, "Wow, Richard, that's beautiful." And he said the name. And I said, "Well, listen, I had just come off literally that day. We shared an Uber from the airport because he was flying in from LA. I was flying in from Texas, wrapping my movie. My hair was in a scrunchie and I was in my boots and I hadn't had my beloved bath. And it was now like 1:00 in the morning. And I said, "Listen, I think it's beautiful and I'd love to write it with you, but I don't write usually from a melody. I am a lyricist first."
Right.
I said, "But I've done it, but I have to get it in my brain because music is mathematical. I have to get it rhythmically in my mind so I can write a lyric that fits it perfectly." So he said, "Oh, okay." So he was staying at a hotel here. And I said, "Let me get my bath and I'll call you tomorrow." And so I said, "But give me some time." So I go upstairs, start my bath water. And all of a sudden it's like squirrel. Remember in the movie Up?
Yeah.
Squirrel? And I called him. He hadn't even gotten a half a block away to the hotel here before I said, first lyric. And he goes, "What? I haven't even gotten in the hotel yet." I said, "Do you want to hear it or not? I'm tired." He goes, "Yes." I said, I didn't know what your name would be, or if your eyes would be brown or blue.
Right.
All I knew deep inside of me is I knew it would be you." He goes, "Perfect.
Wow.
Perfect." I said, "Thank you. I'm going to bed." And so 2 weeks later, we have all this stuff that we bought for his new home. We're at a Bath and Beyond, and it's during COVID, and I'm wearing a mask. He's wearing a mask, and I go, "Squirrel," again. I said, "Second verse." He goes, "What?" I said, "I didn't know what day it would be, or if the skies would be sunny or gray. All I knew with every breath in me is that you'd take my breath away." He goes, "Write that down on your phone."
Wow.
So we wrote the song. It took us a few. He loved the process. Me, I like to write the song and let's move on to the next one.
Yeah.
But he was just loving it. So we spent weeks on it, and we were so happy with it. We ended up writing 7 or so songs in the meantime, but this was the first one. So when I couldn't find a lyric that day, to get back to the struggling part that was not like me, and he couldn't come up with a melody either, because he hadn't seen the movie. And I knew that what innately that movie is a love story.
Right.
There's all kinds of love, and the love between him and Nancy is legendary for all kinds of reasons. But his love of country and his love of where he came from, he was the least snobbish man for everything he accomplished, and so modest. I love that he never forgot where he came from. I love the way his mother is expressed in the movie. I thought that was beautiful.
Jennifer O'Neill.
Yes, who's a friend of mine and a neighbor as well. Not close, but she lives down here too.
I worked with Jennifer in 2011. I produced a film with her, and I said, Jennifer, I want you to play Reagan's mother. Of course, I didn't know it would take 14 years, but, you know.
Right, she could have been the age of your mother.
I called her up during COVID and said, are you ready? She was like, I don't know if I want to go out during COVID, but she finally agreed to do it. So she did a great job.
I love her. She's a beautiful, beautiful woman of God. I love her. I don't see her enough, that's for sure. But anyway, all of a sudden it clicked with me. And I said, Richard, I've got it. He goes, what is it? I said, it's a love story. The movie is a love story. Let's make this song into a duet, and let somebody sing Nancy's role, and let somebody sing Ronnie's, which Chip always affectionately called him, his role. And he goes, well, let's try it. So it took me about 5 minutes to, it wasn't perfect at the time, but we called you. And I was standing right here next to my piano, and we sang it for you. And you go, I love it.
It's great.
Yes, it works. I love it. Send it to me, please.
That's the love story.
So, it's a love story, and it's a love. And I'm a storyteller, and I was so honored to be able to sing it myself. I tried to do it with who was it with? I forget, but he wasn't able to technically. I forget.
Yeah, who was that? Yeah, you're right. That didn't work out.
A country star. He just couldn't do it for whatever reason. He recorded it, but it didn't. We weren't there yet, and you guys needed it. You needed it by a certain time. That's what it was, and he couldn't get in and fix it. So I asked my dear friend Claude Kelly, who is he's in a duo called Lewis and York, and brilliant. They probably have 100 Grammy nominations between the two of them. They just won their first one, ironically, just this past year. But I've written a lot of songs with them. And I said, Claude, we need this. And his singing voice is just so beautiful. And it's tender and it's romantic. And I said, would you come over and let Richard and I play this for you? And can you record it with us tomorrow, basically? And he's such a fine musician. Of course, he learned it in 2 seconds, and we recorded it, I think, the next day. And then I don't remember who. Usually I use my Dr. Moosh to I'm not sure she did the orchestration on it. I think you used somebody here in Nashville.
We used Vince Emmett, helped us finish the song there in Nashville.
Yeah, that's right. I like to give people credit for what they.
I love hearing these stories, and I hope our listeners and viewers do as well, because to me, it's always fun to hear how people create art. But also, I did this similar thing with The Passion of the Christ, where I had artists watch the movie and then write a song.
Right.
Like, how do you interpret what you just saw? And people have different prisms. You and William King from the Commodores both came to the love story angle. And others had different ideas. B.J. Thomas, it was walls with the fall and the wall coming down.
Right.
Everyone had different approaches, and I love that.
That's art. It's completely subjective.
Right.
And I hate modern art, and I don't like a hand and I think I raised money in telethons for people that had those kinds of things. And it's not my thing, but I respect the fact that other people love it and see the artistry of it. I don't, and I'm not going to change. I see through my own prism. You see through yours. And if that prism is foundationally born of the Spirit of God, that's where we get our joy. That's where we that's where blessings flow from.
Mhm.
Nobody was a greater creator than God with the Holy Spirit and our Lord and Savior who created all the cosmos. And we don't even know what's out there beyond, but we know he can't be limited.
Mhm.
So, but when I am co-creating, Mark, along with the creator,
Mm,
I am at my truly most joyful,
mm,
most joyful.
mhm.
That's what we're here for.
Yeah.
We're supposed to co-create with our creator.
Mm.
And I've been doing it a long, 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 long time now. And so then when somebody like you asks me to be a contributor, I'm just always surprised,
Mm.
delighted. And I've heard from some people who said this is my favorite song from the record.
Oh, that's so great.
Uh-huh.
You know,
Uh-huh.
we put it out on Curb Records, and I don't know if you
Mhm.
know the story about we found a song written by Ronald Reagan and Mike Curb. And
No, I didn't know that.
yeah, so I had Lee Greenwood, fix the lyrics a little bit and write the song, and Lee sings the song on the record. So we haven't got. Well, I'll get you the copies. We haven't gotten ours yet either. But Ronald
Yeah,
Reagan's
I never received anything, but I'd love to have that.
Ronald Reagan's song, 50, 60 years after he wrote it. He and Mike wrote it in the backseat of a limo as they were driving to some event in 1980, I think it was. So
Incredible.
I love the way that Mike's like, yeah, I got two songs written by Ronald Reagan, my demos. And I said, excuse me? That's sort of a big deal, Mike. What are you
You
sitting
have
on
a
that for?
treasure chest.
Right. You'd think that Mike's so good at he made
Television themes
yeah,
and
well,
all
he
of
made You Light Up My Life, a million versions of it, and he's usually really good about it. It was a great honor to work with Mike. Mike's a legend, as you well know. I'm sure you
Oh
guys are
gosh,
friends.
yes, yes.
Yeah, and he was
Um,
almost our governor in California, but he didn't quite make it.
well, I think your Steve Hilton looks like he's in the lead right now, right?
Yeah, well, it's a runoff, so whoever the top two are,
Yeah.
they'll do it in the
And
fall.
it's a sheriff, and I've been following it a little bit. I'm a big Steve Hilton fan because he's a true patriot, but he just recently in the last few years became an American citizen.
Yeah,
He's
Steve,
British,
Steve,
but
Steve came to our premiere of the film, and the thing about foreign-born people is I'm foreign-born too. My parents are missionaries, but you appreciate America more, I think, because we saw America from the outside looking in growing up, and we'd go to military base. I grew up in Japan. We'd go to military bases and be on the military base and eat cheeseburgers and fries and just like admire America from afar. And I think
right.
we're just when you grow up here, it's just like, this is America. And no, it's a really special place.
Yeah, I'm foreign born too, but I've never even used that
I didn't know
just
that.
yeah, I was born in Paris, France.
Oh,
My
really?
daddy, my daddy was 17 years old when Pearl Harbor happened. He
Mm-hmm.
lied about his age. Only bad thing he ever did. He's like, Washington, chop down the cherry tree.
Right,
Whatever.
right.
My daddy signed up and went into the Navy as a 17-year-old
Wow,
and
wow.
served. He was sent to Paris, France, to work on at Shape headquarters
Mm.
in Paris and he was with in General Eisenhower's staff.
Mm-hmm.
I have a wonderful picture of being on a ship. I wasn't on it. My mother's like 8 or 9 months pregnant with me. My brother's 3 years older than I am. And at the end of the deck, about 20 yards away, is General Eisenhower leaning down to my brother David to run to me, run to
Oh
me.
my goodness.
Uh-huh.
It's a big
Hmm.
deal. That's
Yeah,
pretty
so I
cool.
was born in Paris, but
Well,
back then you had dual citizenship until you were like 18,
so
and
you and I can't be president, basically, but that's okay.
uh, you can't and I
We're
can't.
we're foreign born. You have to be born. You have to
Nobody's
be.
asking me.
Well, not yet, but
I
you
get
never
in so
know.
much trouble with this mouth. I would be, oh gosh, they'd never stop trying to indict me.
Oh my goodness. Well, you've experienced, yeah, I mean, you were with the soundtrack. I really wanted people that were, kind of big in the 80s and all the way to today. And that's why it was fun to have you and the Commodores and Tanya Tucker and Travis Tritt and so many great artists on there. But thanks for
Well,
what
I'm
you
sure you
also.
all felt
Well,
honored
you
to be
also
on.
brought that firsthand, the fact that you knew the Reagans, that was really cool too. What's next for you? You've always got your hands in so many things. What's on the horizon?
Well, I just released I think it's my 37th book. I cannot believe it. I don't know how, where did I do it? When? When? Somebody said to me recently, Kathie, have you ever gone on, what's it called? That IMD, whatever it is.
IMDb.
Yeah, IMDb. I'd never gone on it. I said, I know what I did. I mean, and they said, you've got to just look at it. And I looked at it, and it was like 5 pages of just, and I went, what? This can't be, this has got to be like, what's that thing that always lies when you Wikipedia?
Yeah.
You know, it's got to be made up stuff. Yeah. And I just looked at one thing and it said diagnosis murder. And I went, I never did diagnose. Oh, wait a minute. I
Really?
did murder with Vic Van Dyke.
So you've done so much you've forgotten. You've forgotten half what you've done.
Me in that episode of Diagnosis Murder. We were playing 2 people that would work together, like we actually did, and we hated each other, which we never did. But Regis shoots me in that episode of Diagnosis Murder, and I went, oh my God, I've completely forgotten about that.
Wow.
How do you forget about that?
Wow.
Working with Dick Van Dyke and getting shot by your co-host.
Wow. What about,
I just always move on to the next thing. So
you were in Seinfeld too.
We have a classic episode of Seinfeld when Kramer came on with his coffee table book, which was a real coffee table, and he spews his coffee all over my Kathie Lee casual. And it became a classic. It's very funny. It really is. Yeah. Seinfeld actually told Regis and I years later, he said, I stole everything you guys did. Your show was about nothing. I made our show about nothing.
Oh, interesting. You gave him the idea for that, huh?
Yes. And then later, even Barbara Walters said that she did The View based on me and Regis, with different, just sitting there and just talking and not being in any way. I mean, Regis and I for 15 years never had a quarrel, never had an unkind word to one another, not once. We adored one another from day one. We never had a writer on that show, never. We just showed up and brought whatever our imaginations came with. Whatever we brought with us was here, and Regis insisted on being able to hold up the New York newspapers. And all the suits that once we became a huge local hit in New York, we made a pact, the 2 of us, that we would not go syndicated unless they would let us just be who we are. We are entertainers. We are performers, and we don't read a teleprompter. We just no. I'd done that at America and hated it. So. When Disney came along and offered us an incredible deal to syndicate, we said, well, you got to promise us you're not going to change us. Just we're the same people, same things. Stick us up on the satellite and let us be who we are. Wow. And we did for 23 solid minutes of ad-libbing, and the only elements that we ever had was if maybe I brought in a picture, or one time I brought in a colonoscopy scope because Regis wouldn't go get one. And I said, if I get one, and will you know, that kind of thing. I bring something that would get laughed, you know. But we had no producers that way. We had Gelman. All he had to do was answer the phone. He didn't have to call people. People wanted to be on that show desperately. It was the #1 show in daytime. And so, you know, it was a joy. 15 years. Once all the tabloid stuff started happening, I said, I'm done now. And actually what really changed my life, Sondheim called me, and I can't even believe I say things like that, but he did. And he said, I want you to take over for Carol Burnett on Broadway, just 1 show a week, so that she can get 2 nights off.
Wow.
You know, and I'd been asked by Henry Mancini and Blake Edwards 8 years earlier, but my daughter had just been born. I said to Mary Poppins, I can't. My daughter's only 1, and Broadway will always be there. But then she said, Kathie, in that lovely Mary Poppins way, she basically said, Kathie, I had to make the same choices when my children were young. You'll never be sorry that you put your children first.
Wow.
And you'll always regret when you don't.
Wow.
And by the time Carol Burnett asked me to, and Sondheim, I said, my daughter was like, bye, Mom. She was fine. You know, she's an amazing little actor. She did nine films.
Now
And
you had your kids pretty late in life, right?
thanks for reminding me of that. Yeah, I did.
Were you
I
in
was
your 40s when she was born?
30, no, 36 when Cody was born,
well, that was not, yeah.
and 40 when Cass was born.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
that's always tough. My youngest, my wife was 44 when he was born. So, you know, there's like a 30% chance of Down syndrome. We got the whole spiel.
the
But
whole
it was
spiel.
like, you know what?
Nothing gets easier the older we get, you know, nothing.
We were
Except I
ready.
don't have my period anymore. I don't know what you find easier. You don't have that to deal with.
We were ready for whatever card would be dealt. He didn't have Down syndrome, but if he had, we would have figured it
We would
out,
have
right?
loved it.
Yeah.
So many Down syndrome families have said to me through the years, because I've always worked with them in the different charity work stuff that I do. They say, this is the child that taught me how to love.
Wow.
Your Down syndrome children.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's a simplicity and an innocence about them that
That's
is
what they
really
say.
quite beautiful. Yeah.
That's what they say. By the way, before we leave Seinfeld, I have to tell you a funny story. This is how I know two things: that God exists and he has a sense of humor. I think it was 2014, and I had been working too much the year before, so I decided I was going to take the summer of 2014. Remember, he had a thing called the Summer of George, where George Costanza just eats cheese all summer long because he had some stipend from some company he had just left. So the Summer of George means you don't do anything. So I decided 2014 was my Summer of George, and I was going to take the whole summer off and just try not to work and relax. So I did that. The last day of the Summer of George, who do I meet at a party and take a picture with? George Costanza. And I just
He's
said,
so talented, that man.
he is. But the one who arranged it, you know, the big man upstairs, I'm like, okay, that's a pretty good sense of humor you have. To the last day of the Summer of George, have me run into George Costanza. Nicely done, sir.
More fun than George Stephanopoulos.
Yeah, well.
Way more fun than that.
That's probably true.
Yes.
Well, it's been great talking with you. And
You, sweetie. Am I really truly invited to come to this premiere this summer?
Yes, we're planning something fun, so I'm going to give you all the details. I can't talk about it.
May I bring Richard?
Of course. But yeah, we'll get all the details done, and we're going to have some fun. You know, the film is interesting that it came out, and a lot of people missed it because it was in the middle of an election campaign, and people were distracted, and we released it on August 30th, I think. A little too early. Anyway, so a lot of folks missed it, and also a lot of folks said we want to see it again. So we're working on some plans to come out, and also we left so much on the cutting room floor. You know what this is like. We call it in our business killing.
The hardest part is what do we have to cut?
We call it killing our children, you know, because some of your favorite scenes have to go. But I would do that.
My Broadway musical, 40 of the best songs I've ever written in my life had to be cut.
Oh my
goodness. Because they didn't serve the narrative. It kills you.
You have to be relentless. Yeah. And you know, the screenings that I did for you that time, we did about 11 states of 3,000 people, and people are really smart, and they tell you what's working and not working, and so we had to let some of our favorite scenes go, but we're going to try to maybe have a cut that puts some of those back in, and so
a little bit. You've got the freedom to do that now. It's
right.
Critics aren't going to be, you know, and you're not going to be depending on. I mean, I think that we're going to be in such a good mood as a nation. Unless, I mean, God is sovereign, and who knows what can happen. And it's a long time, even till July 4th, you know.
Yeah, well, no more shootings, please.
Please, Jesus, please, God, protect our president and all our leaders. Protect this world, Lord, for this kind of evil. Just protect us.
Yeah, Democrat, Republican, whatever. We want our president protected.
I have friends from every side. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of them don't want to talk to me anymore, and I don't hate them. You know, if I can't sit there and talk, you know, respectfully with somebody because I might have a different idea, I don't understand that.
Yeah.
I want to learn. I might actually learn something from you. And guess what? You might learn something from me too. That you just want to sit in your stink for the rest of your life?
That's how we don't grow unless we learn from each other, and we have to be willing to change our ideas and opinions about things as new information comes in.
Yeah.
So I think you're in the
Yeah.
right place. Well, thanks,
Yeah.
Kath.
I'm grateful. I'm grateful. I'm still writing songs, still writing books, still, I have they've done a big, huge documentary on my life that's like in the last 2 seconds of being finished. And
Hmm.
it's really well done. A wonderful Emmy Award winning director, producer named Nick Nanton is doing it. And my friend Chris Jenner, my friend of 50 years, I can't believe it. Chris is the executive producer on it.
Oh,
So
wow.
I think that's going to get a lot of attention. It's well done. It is just crammed, packed, filled with all that IBDM, whatever it is.
IMDb, Kathie Lee, IMDb.
Whatever. I'm never looking at it again. It'll make me feel exhausted.
Well, it's so great to talk to you, and thanks for making the time
And
today.
you.
And
Yeah.
don't ever retire.
No, I never said I would. People go, "How are you liking retirement?" I said, "Honey, nobody in the Bible ever retired.
No,
You know,
no,
Moses did not take golf
no,
after he came down with the Ten Commandments. You know, it
no,
didn't happen that way.
no. We're
And
gonna keep going.
Esther didn't start knitting. I just know that. So, that isn't going. Not that any of those things are bad. If that's what you want to do, God bless you. But when you're an artist, you can't stop being an
No,
artist.
no. We
You just can't.
we can go on till the very end because
Mhm.
that we have the freedom to do that. So it's great.
Mhm. And that's when as I told you, my most joyful. I have 5 beautiful grandchildren now. Every single one of them has the Frank Gifford chin with the cleft in the chin. Every single one of them. They're just beyond precious.
Frank lives on.
Yes, he does. Yes, he does.
Well,
Right
thank
here.
you, Kathie Lee. We'll
You
talk
too.
again soon.
God bless you.
You too. Thank you.